Around 4 weeks ago, I posted a message asking if you wanted me to make a one-off Q&A video, and it got over 50 votes at the time, with a 90% saying yes. Around 2 weeks ago, I posted a second post asking everyone to leave your question in the comments of that post, and I shall try my best to answer it. In this video, I will hopefully answer all of your questions from that post. We have a question from Spontaneous Disintegration. And Spontaneous asks, which Fallout area do you find yourself trapped in the most? And I'd like to know what sort of character build you enjoy being trapped in the most. Thanks for your question, Spontaneous. In recent times, I find myself trapped in Fallout New Vegas. Historically, it's been one of the two games of Fallout that I find myself trapped in, the second being Fallout 3. In terms of character build, I usually prefer two different styles. The first, which is usually my go-to style, is a commando style, and the second is usually a stealth build. Sometimes I mix the two up, but usually it's one or the other. They are my top two favorite styles of playstyles. We have a question from Grognok. To me, Fallout games are defined by moments and exploration, so I would love to know what your top 3 moments in Fallout and top 3 locations to have explored in the Fallout universe would be. I don't even need an explanation, my mind will fill in the blanks. Thank you again for all the content you do. Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much for your question, Grognok. I had to think about this one, but managed to narrow it down a little bit. I should probably give a spoiler alert, but I'm pretty sure by this point it probably wouldn't matter too much. In terms of moments, the first would probably be when I saw my father die in Fallout 3. The second is probably when I saw myself die in Fallout 3, and this was well before the Broken Steel DLC content was even out. And I think the third moment is probably from Fallout 4, when you find out that the leader of the Institute is your son. So that's probably the 3 moments. In terms of 3 locations, I think I'd have to go with Boston from Fallout 4, DC from Fallout 3, and probably the Strip from Fallout New Vegas. We have a question from Reckless Adventure Gaming. Hey Mo, first off, I wanted to congratulate you on your success of your Fallout channel. You have done amazing, buddy, and I always enjoy watching your content. My question for you, sir, is if a Fallout movie was ever to be announced, who would you like to see play the main lead character? Hey Reckless, thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you so much for continuing to support me. You were actually one of the first few subscribers to my channel, and you've pretty much been supporting me from my early days, so thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. To answer your question, I think I would have to go with Tom Hanks. I grew up watching his films, including Apollo 13, Forrest Gump, and even Toy Story. Toy Story being one of my favorites. I feel like Tom has played so many great roles that he would understand the world of Fallout. But that's just my own thoughts. See, I grew up with Fallout, so naturally I wanted to pick someone that I grew up with also watching their movies and films. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know who you think would make a good actor or actress to play the lead role in a Fallout movie if it was to ever happen. Thanks, Reckless, for your question. We have a question from Joshua Armstrong. Do you have a favorite follower in Fallout 3? Do you choose them based on their skill and weapons, or just their personality and looks? Hey Joshua, thanks buddy for your question. This is actually going to be an easy one for me. It would have to be Dogmeat. I usually play as a sneak build or a commando build, and I love how Dogmeat will start to growl when your enemy NPCs are nearby. He is also really good at opening containers that have a high lock level, which I otherwise would not be able to open. I picked Dogmeat as my favorite for a few more reasons. He is historically the very first follower I ever encountered, and I love the way he looks, and I really enjoy how immersive the game feels when I have him by my side. So I would have to go with Dogmeat. I do choose him because of his looks, but I choose him more because of the historical sentimental value he has for me. Like I said, he was the first follower I ever encountered, and because of that, I love Dogmeat. Next, we have a question from Steve Bird. If you lived in New Vegas, what faction would you follow and why? Right, so this is obviously not going to be an easy one, but I'm going to try my best. Hey Steve, thanks man for your question. I'm not 100% sure. I think I would have to go with House, or rather Robert House to be specific. I would have to say that all the factions have their wants and needs and how they feel they would make the Mojave Desert a better place for all. But at the same time, I think house is probably the less of all evils out there, and maybe in the long run would probably make the Mojave Desert a better place for all. Well, for the most part anyway. So I would pick house simply because I think it's probably the less of all evils out there. Next, we have a question from Niock, and I really hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, apologies, my friend. Where did you first hear about or experience the Fallout franchise? What was your first Fallout game? So Niock, this is an excellent question. My first Fallout experience was from the first time that I played a Fallout game, and that was Fallout 3. I remember looking at the game cover at my local game store at the time. I thought the cover looked really cool. At the time, I didn't know it was a power armor. I thought it was some kind of futuristic alien symbiote suit, that sort of thing. I bought the game purely on a hunch. I hadn't even heard of Fallout before. I just bought it because the cover looked nice to me. So on the same day, I remember it being a Friday, sort of after school. I bought the game. I took this game home, and it was for my Xbox. So it was on a CD. And I remember putting the CD into my Xbox, and in that one weekend, I think I stacked up about 15 hours of gameplay on that one game, and that's something I've never done before. So that was my very first experience of Fallout, and that is pretty much how I got into Fallout. That weekend was probably one of the best gaming weekends I can recall in my life's memory. We now have a question from Roblox Only. Hey dude, will you also make Fallout 4 and 76 guides? Love your content, dude. Nice one. Hey Roblox, thanks for your question, man. In short, yes, I plan to make Fallout 4 guides in the very near future. Regarding Fallout 76, I do plan to at some point, but my current focus is on Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4. I'll shed why in a little bit. I think we have another question from someone else where it will become a little bit more apparent why I'm not focusing on Fallout 76 at the moment and why the others instead. But with that said, thanks man, appreciate your question. We now have a question from Roblox With Ray. I'm guessing Fallout is your most favorite game series. What is your second most favorite game series? So Ray, you're spot on, buddy. Fallout is definitely, hands down, no questions asked, my most favorite game series. I love the game. I actually do have a second favorite series. If I'm not playing Fallout, I'm 100% playing this particular game series, and that is Monster Hunter. I love Monster Hunter. It's sort of a pattern forming. I bought my first copy of Monster Hunter in 2004 for my PlayStation 2, again in the local game store. And you can probably tell by the dates that I bought Monster Hunter first before I bought Fallout. And I've been playing Monster Hunter ever since. Recently, I've been pretty much putting hours into Monster Hunter World, but a little bit of sad story. I lost my save. I didn't save it up to the cloud, so I've lost my character on it. But it's not a bad thing. It just means I'm just reliving the moments all over again. But to answer your question, Monster Hunter is easily my second most favorite game series behind Fallout. We now have a question from Steve Bird. Would you rather fight a real-life Night Stalker or a Deathclaw? Right, so this is one of those real-life moment questions. Hey Steve, it's a very dangerous but at the same time interesting question. I think I would have to go with a Deathclaw. I think I might stand a slightly better chance outrunning something that I can actually see. On the off chance that I'm not able to outrun it, something tells me that a Deathclaw does not play with its food. And because of that, I'd rather have a Deathclaw behind me than a Night Stalker somewhere around me. Anyway, I hope I never have to find out, to be honest. Thanks, Steve, for your question, man. We now have a question from Borderlands Page. What are your thoughts on Fallout 76? I just want to hear your side of things. Right. Hey, Borderlands. Thanks for your question. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one for me, as I'm sure many people also have their views on Fallout 76. When there were early talks about Fallout 76, I was actually really looking forward to the game. But then when I found out about the online component, and the fact that it's not really story-driven, well, not the initial base version of the game anyway, I thought to myself that I'm probably not going to enjoy it. For me personally, Fallout is one of those few games where it's a complete offline experience. I love to stop in sort of read terminals, explore dialogue options, really explore the lore, talk to characters, collect everything, that sort of thing. I really like to immerse myself. So sort of doing all of that and then having a random person come up to you, and I know you can sort of limit it in the current version of 76, but even with that said, it just, to me, doesn't feel the same. That said, sort of ignoring the bugs that landed on day one for the game, today the game is a solid game. And if you're someone that loves to play with friends and loves the Fallout franchise, I think Fallout 76 in that regard is an amazing game. You sort of get to explore the world of Fallout, although I know it's not on par with, say, Fallout 3, New Vegas, or even 4. But even with that said, you get to explore a world of Fallout with friends, and sometimes that brings more joy than the game itself. And for that reason, I think Fallout 76 is actually a really good game. It really depends on what you're looking for. So for me, when it comes to Fallout, although I like playing with friends, one of the reasons why I play Monster Hunter is because I get to really chill out with my friends. With Fallout, it's totally an offline experience for me. It's totally, I'm sort of sitting by myself, lights turned off, just, the glow of my monitor and just Fallout, and then that's it. So playing with other people, Fallout 76 to me doesn't seem right. It sort of doesn't meld well with my personal experience. But like I said, if you're the sort of person that loves to play online and you don't really are too fussed about the offline experience of Fallout, and you're more you just want to play with friends, I think Fallout 76 is a really good game for that sort of thing. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. We have a question from Neon. I don't know if someone already asked this, but anyway, what do you think about some retcons and this new estate of semi-canon of Fallout 1 and 2? Hey Neon, thanks for your question, buddy. For anyone who does not know what a retcon is, as I assume not everyone who is listening to this video has played Fallout 1 and or 2, a retcon is basically where a sequel of a game introduces new information that sort of contradicts earlier information from the first game, or puts sort of like a new interpretation on old information. For example, in Fallout 2, it introduced the idea that super mutants were fertile, whereas in Fallout 1, 3, New Vegas, and 4, super mutants are known to be infertile. Basically, they can't have kids. To be honest, Neon, I haven't actually played a lot of Fallout 1 or 2. My first experience with Fallout was 3, and then New Vegas, and then 4, and then 76. And I've played Fallout 1 and 2 sort of retrospectively. My reason for playing Fallout 1 and 2 was because of my love for Fallout 3 and beyond. It's sort of the reason why I thought, I really want to learn a little bit more about the lore, and the best place for that is to go back to the source, which is Fallout 1 and 2. But I haven't played it enough to be able to form an opinion and give an in-depth answer. However, I can provide a view on retcons in general, and hopefully that'll be okay. Personally, I feel that a retcon in Fallout or any game, as long as it's sort of justified and explained, is okay. But if it's sort of just said and not really explained and is introduced just to sort of fit a story narrative, then I don't think it's a good way to go about it, especially when something just introduces a contradiction. Anyway, I hope that this answers your question, Neon. Thanks, buddy, for asking. We have another question from Steve Bird. Do you think it's possible to tip a Brahmin? Hey Steve, thanks for your question, man. Yes, it's entirely possible to tip a Brahmin. Simply sneak up to one, press the interact button, and you will tip the Brahmin over. Just make sure not to have a weapon equipped at the same time. That will result in something a bit different. We have a question from Slicknade. What do you look like? And also, you should do Fallout builds like character builds. Love you, man. Keep up the great work. Hey Slicknade, thanks for your question, man. Okay, I will answer the easy part of the question first. In short, yes, I really want to start making build guides for Fallout 3 and then move into Fallout New Vegas. And as of when I pick Fallout 4, do the same for that. I have played so many builds over the years, it adds so much replay value, but more important than that, it's just fun and enjoyable, and it keeps things fresh, which is something that I love doing. I do want to introduce build videos, but not probably at this very moment, as I really want to get a good coverage for both Fallout New Vegas and hopefully for Fallout 4. And by coverage, I'm pretty sure you all know what I mean by that. Weapons, glitches, armors, guides, that sort of thing. And once I feel like I've sort of done that, then I feel I've sort of got a good ground coverage to now introduce build guides. To answer your first part of the question, I'm not entirely sure how to answer it, to be honest. What do I look like? Well, I guess you can sort of estimate from the tone of my voice that I'm a dude, but something you probably don't know, which I guess I'll be happy to share. I wear glasses. I'm trying to grow a beard, not going very well, but I don't really know what else to say. Maybe one day, if it's warranted, I might do like a face reveal, that sort of thing. But for the moment, I'm just a voice. I want to keep my focus on my channel and on Fallout. I don't want to take any focus away from that, and the minimum impact that I need to do from my side is to just voice my passion and my love for the game, and I hope I don't need to show my face. If anything, I probably might lose views and subscribers if I do that, so I don't want to do that. Not anytime soon anyway. But with that said, thanks a lot, buddy, for your question. We now have a question from Commander Cat 244. How would your dream Fallout look like? Hey Commander Cat, thanks for this very good question, and I'll try my best to answer it. Personally, I think the world of Fallout is designed to follow the events of World of Fallout, some all-out nuclear war, or the events of it much later on. I think it would be set in such a world where there is a balance between justice and chaos. There would be a number of factions, each with their own view on how things should be done. From a mechanics point of view, I loved everything that Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 have done, and I would like to see more on top. I certainly want to see a much bigger world, but something I really want to explore is the underwater side of things in Fallout. So historically, I don't think Fallout has ever really dived, no pun intended, too much into the underwater side of things. So, for example, Fallout has mostly been based in like a city or a desert or some sort of open plain or cityscape-like environments. Something I really want to see is the addition where there are some sort of underwater ruins, like vaults underwater, or cities that have crumbled, or spaceships or submarines that have sort of gone underwater, that sort of thing. In Fallout 4, if you look out into the distance from the Commonwealth, you can see there's nothing but ocean. But just imagine if you can actually go out there and explore stuff under there. I think Fallout 4 did try to do this with the Institute, but they went sort of underground, and that's not what I'm really talking about. I'd like to see something a little bit more water-based. And maybe taking this underwater world might also dictate the next location of a Fallout game also. Now, I don't want to lose out on what's already there. I love walking the wasteland. I love walking the Commonwealth, the desert, all of it. And I do not want to see that go away. I want to see that still be a thing. But I want to see an underwater component as an addition to your, if you like, overwater component. Anyway, I hope this answers your question, Commander Cat. We now have a question from CitadelcatD. Again, I hope I pronounced that right, buddy. What do you think about Fallout 1, 2, and tactics? Hey, CitadelcatD, thanks for your question. As I've sort of answered this question in a way above, I have not really played much of Fallout 1, 2, and tactics. The first time I played Fallout was Fallout 3, and I've played a little bit of Fallout 1, 2, and tactics, but not really enough to, again, give a sensible view on really anything. But that said, from the limited experience I do have with the games, I have really enjoyed what time I've spent in Fallout 2 and 1 and tactics. I love the overall mechanics of the game. There is very little hand-holding, if any. It's very read and understand focused. I did enjoy the click-based interactions and how you sort of have to work out a lot of the stuff yourself. This probably isn't the answer that you probably had hoped for, CitadelcatD, but sadly I don't really have a really good one to give. I would rather really want to give you an honest answer and just say that I just haven't played the games enough. I don't want to just sort of randomly read stuff online and just make up an answer just to sort of, to fill some kind of quota. I want to be honest, and that is the honest answer. I just haven't played the games enough, but I really do hope to. I hope to one day be able to find the time to do it. At the moment, it's a bit difficult outside of YouTube, just like everyone else. I've got work, I've got family, and most of the time my family dictate my schedule for me, the kids especially. So anyway, I really hope this sort of answers your question, buddy. Thank you so much for asking it. We now have another question from Steve Bud. Steve's asked a lot of questions. Okay, I'll just throw this out really quickly. In that second post I did, something I said in the post was, as long as I get at least 10 questions, I promise to answer them. Steve, being the great guy that he is, he asked 10 questions straight off the bat in that post, pretty much guaranteeing that I make this video. So thanks a lot, buddy, for your question. Right, what's your favorite book? Well, again, thanks a lot, Steve. So this is going to feel a little sneaky, but my favorite book of all time are the Where is Wally book series. For anyone who's not familiar with the book series, it's essentially a collection of very busy and noisy images in a book where there are hidden characters and objects in a really big picture. The purpose of the book is to actually not read anything, but to sort of find these hidden characters, find things that are hidden in plain sight, sort of go collecting things here and there. I've never really been a fan of sort of reading or writing unless if it's something that feels immersive. So sadly, I can't sort of sit in a place and read a book and feel immersed. It's not something I sort of feel in tune with. But by the same accord, I'm more than happy to sit in front of my computer and sort of read terminals endlessly, because that feels more immersive to me. I'm more of a picture is worth 1,000 words sort of person. I'm much better at looking at things and finding things and figuring out things. Again, it's probably not what you were expecting, but that's my honest answer. We have another question from Steve Bird. What's your favorite skill? My favorite skill is probably small guns. I love to play as either a sneak or commando style build in Fallout, and as such, the small gun skill is something I tend to heavily invest in order to perfect my character builds. We have another question from Steve Bird. Thanks, Steve. Do you own the Fallout tabletop games? Another great question, Steve. Sadly, I do not, but I would love to hope to one day. I actually love playing tabletop games. When I'm not playing games sort of, on my PC, if I am playing a game, it's probably a tabletop game. Prior to dinner time, one of the games the family and I sit down and play is almost always Catan. We love the game. It's amazing. We almost play it maybe once a week. And playing the game definitely creates more drama than actually, by the end, I don't think we care too much about who's winning or losing. It's more about, shouting and fighting. But I think that's sort of the point. But yeah, I don't own the game, but I do hope to one day. We now have a question from Lula Bugs. Why are you trapped in Fallout? Hey Lula, thanks for your question. So my channel originally started out as a role-playing sort of experience where I was pretending to be trapped in the Fallout world. When I created Trapped in Fallout, my plan was to sort of visit random locations where I would sort of sleep in a bed and I would wake up in a random location, and I would sort of explore the idea from a point of view of someone who has never played Fallout. But then I sort of made a small pivot. I made a couple of guide videos, and I found that I really enjoyed making the guide videos. And really, fortunately for me, they were really well received as well. So my channel sort of slowly moved into making much more formal, much more to the point, waffle-free guide videos on how to get specific things and what the value of certain things were in terms of skills and benefits and that sort of thing. With that said, I still decided to keep my channel name because I am still trapped in Fallout. My entire channel is only dedicated to Fallout. I don't want to make anything else. I love the game too much and there's so much to do. I don't think I'll ever have time to do any other games, even if I wanted to. So that's why I am trapped in Fallout. That's why my channel is dedicated to Fallout. And that's pretty much why I like to make guides. I like to think sort of offline, not as boring as I sound in my videos. So if you do decide to check out some of my earlier videos, there's a little bit of cringe factor in there, but as you watch them, you'll sort of hear me make the one or two occasional dad jokes. I am a dad, so it sort of comes naturally to me at times. But anyway, I hope this answers your question, Lola. We now have a question from Calvin C. Do you prefer Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas? Hey Calvin, I was hoping not to get this question as it's a very difficult one to answer, but I'll go with my instinct on this one. So the first time I experienced Fallout was Fallout 3. I think I've probably mentioned it twice now. Although I have spent more hours playing New Vegas and more time reading the lore and understanding the background, I feel my first time experience with Fallout 3 was a very unique feeling. And because of this, I think I would prefer to play Fallout 3 over Fallout New Vegas. That's not to say one is better than the other, it really isn't. I think they are both amazing games in their own accord. There are parts of both games that I feel are missing from each other. It's hard to put into words, unless you've sort of played both the games like in depth. I think you can probably understand what I'm trying to say. The best way I can describe is that they both sort of feel like two different games that sort of belong on two sides of the same coin. One sort of complements the other. But to answer your question with a straight-faced and an honest answer, I think if I absolutely had to choose, I would probably choose Fallout 3, simply because it was the first Fallout game I played. And people tend to not, forget their first time when it comes to anything that, they hold special. It's something that sort of stays with you forever, right? Everyone can draw different things, whatever your first time for anything is, like, your first video game or the first time you went out on, some kind of special occasion, or the first time you did something, whatever that first time is, you hold it true to your heart. So Fallout 3 was my first Fallout game, and because of that, I think when it comes to a tipping point, I think I'll probably always pick Fallout 3. But again, there's sentimental value there. Anyway, thanks a lot, Calvin, for your question. Okay, we now have another question from Steve Bird. Again, thanks, Steve. Who's your favorite followers? Okay. Thanks, Steve, for your great question. To answer this question, I will pick one follower from Fallout 3, New Vegas, and another from 4. So both 3 and 4, I think is probably a given, is Dogme, for reasons already explained earlier in this video. For New Vegas, I would have to pick Veronica. Veronica, to me, feels like the Chuck Norris of the New Vegas world. And we have another question from Steve. Tea or coffee? Thanks again, Steve. I'm a tea person, specifically green tea. And we have another question from Steve Bird. Have you watched the channel Mitten Squad? Yes, I have. I love how they have a very unique take on beating Fallout, Skyrim, and other games using a very unique approach. Their content feels very interesting, and it brings so many fresh new eyes to an otherwise difficult gaming area where there are millions of games. Mitten Squad are an amazing channel, and they have an amazing and lovely community. You can check that out for yourself. Just go and watch any one of Mitten's videos, and just watch the video and look through the comments, and you will see just how much love and respect there is for the content creator and for their content and for what they do. Me personally, I hope to one day turn my own channel into such a place where we can share thoughts and views, and to be honest, I feel like I've already achieved a little bit of that. There are a number of people that watch my content, and the comments they leave are so encouraging and so lovely that you just sort of, I don't know how to quite put it, but you can sense that they're not just saying, people are not just saying things for the sake of saying things. People are taking time out of their day. In this day and age, finding time to watch a video that's even 2 minutes long is a pretty big thing, I think. And you have people who take out time from their day to watch your content, and not only do they leave a comment, but it's sort of lovely feedback comment. How you can improve things, or something I've missed where someone has gone again out of their way to do a little bit of research and to teach me something that in hindsight I should have put in the video, from the very beginning. So, I'm not comparing myself to Mitten Squad. Let me just probably say that. But what I am saying is the community that's sort of building on my channel, I'm loving it, and I hope, I don't want to say too much, but my channel gives me a lot of confidence to get on with my own personal life, on a lot of different fronts, and I'm really happy that I created the channel, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But anyway, I hope this answers your question, Steve. And that's pretty much it. Thank you to everyone who asked me a question, and I hope that the answers I've given made sense. I know in this video, 100% I was waffling. And the reason I was waffling was because I was trying to find the words. When you're sort of, you found an item in any of the Fallout games, you know exactly what to say and you just say it. But when you sort of get asked a question and you're not reading from a script, so in this video, I'm not reading from a script, I'm just saying what comes to mind, that's sort of why I was waffling. But with that said, I'm going to be a bit shameful, and to anyone that's made it this far in the video, I'm going to use this opportunity to say a big thank you to everyone who is still watching. You have liked my videos, watched them, commented on them, and have truly been willing me on to do more on my channel. In all honesty, the growth of my channel is based on content, but really the growth comes from people who watch and support content creators, and for that I am really, really grateful. Well, thank you all so much for helping me get this far. Maybe one day, if I ever hit that big 1K subscriber and hit that super difficult 4,000 watch hours, then I might do something a little bit different. And maybe one day, but for the moment, before I get too sentimental, I'm going to finish my video here. I'm going to focus on the content. I'm not going to focus on myself. I'm going to focus on the content. I'm going to focus on what you all like to watch and what you've all come to expect for me to create. And with that, thank you all so much. Thank you so much, my friends. I guess in closing, hi, I'm Mo, and I'm trapped in Fallout.